Warning, this video contains material that some viewers may find disturbing. All original source material is in the description below. Viewer discretion advised. I don't know if anybody's read Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers biography, but it's got some kind of disturbing things in it.
Basically, I just let him do anything he wanted. He was always exposed to debauchery and drugs and beautiful women and all the stuff that I really like.
Interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
This video is sponsored by you, the viewer. I've had a sponsor before. I didn't like it, so I'm not sponsored, nor am I monetized anywhere. So anything I do make comes from you. So if you like what I do and you want to support the cause, you can shoot me a tip or support to my PayPal, Venmo, Cash App below. Or you can join my Patreon or check out my merch store.
Standing in line to see the show tonight, and there's a light on, heavy glow.
Red Hot Chili Pepper, Anthony Kiedis, fronts one of the most successful rock bands in the world. His parents broke up when he was 4, and he spent his childhood split between his mum in Michigan and his dad, Blackie Dammett, in Hollywood.
I think it was a great thing for him, the way that he grew up. He got the traditional Midwestern upbringing, all no-nonsense, that kind of stuff, and out with me, a wild maniac. I grew up in the age when you would be interested in girls enough to want to have sex with them. For me, the early 50s, girls didn't have sex with you. So I wanted Anthony to be able to enjoy sex from an early age. So when I had so many girlfriends, most of them were young, and when he was, whatever he was, 12 or 13 or something, these girls weren't that much older than he was because I dated such young girls. So this girl, Kimberly, a very beautiful girl I knew from the Rainbow Bar and Grill, certainly the kind of girl that would be nice to have sex with the first time. So she agreed, and they had sex. And he was quite young, younger than you would expect a kid to be. I knew that I wanted him to be able to be the first guy in his class instead of the last, like I was.
What?
To have sex with girls. And it did make him a big hit at school. It was, what, you had sex? I'm not going to have sex for 6 more years, you lucky guy. That's just the way I treated Anthony. Now, obviously, most people are going to think I'm a sicko nutcase, but how much bad comes from it? It didn't hurt him. He enjoyed it. It didn't hurt her. She enjoyed it.
As soon as I moved in with my dad, the idea of having sex became a priority for me. Actually, the anticipation and the desire and the infatuation with the inevitable act had been rolling long before I got to California. But now I was 11 on the cusp of 12, and it was time to act. Girls my age at Emerson wanted nothing to do with me. My father had a succession of beautiful young teenage girlfriends whom I couldn't help fantasizing about, but I couldn't quite get up the nerve to approach them. Then he started seeing a girl named Kimberly. Kimberly was a beautiful, soft-spoken 18-year-old redhead with snow-white skin and huge, perfectly formed breasts. One night, shortly before my 12th birthday, we were all at the Rainbow. I was high as a little kite on a quaalude, and I got up the courage to write my father a note. I know this is your girlfriend, but I'm pretty sure she's up for the task, so if it's okay with you, can we arrange a situation where I end up having sex with Kimberly tonight? He brokered the deal in a flash. She was game, so we went back to the house, and he said, okay, there's the bed, there's the girl, do what you will. My father's bed was bizarre to begin with, because he had piled 4 mattresses on top of one another to create an almost throne-like effect. He was a little too present for my taste, and I was nervous enough as it was, but Kimberly did everything. She guided me the whole way, and she was very loving and gentle, and it was all pretty natural. I can't remember if it lasted 5 minutes or an hour. It was just a blurry, hazy, sexy moment.
We started experimenting. He had been out there for a while, and he was curious. I mean, obviously, he knew that I was doing drugs because everybody was doing drugs in the circles that I lived in. And I had parties at my house constantly with, movie stars and big rock stars and sports stars. And people weren't embarrassed to be doing drugs at that time. It was just acceptable. So he was curious. He wanted to know about them. I let him experiment. Everybody's on acid and running around and dancing and stuff. It wasn't so unusual that I let him have a little bit of acid or take a little bit of marijuana or something like that. So, and at the time, it wasn't a big deal.
He also mentions being babysat by Cher when he was an adolescent or young teenager, and her sleeping in the bed naked with him.
Around the time that my hormones started raging, I had the wonderful experience of being babysat one night by Cher. I was in the 8th grade and still hanging with Sonny and Connie from time to time, and for some reason they got jammed up, so Cher volunteered to watch me for the night. We camped out in her bedroom, having a heart-to-heart talk for hours on end, really getting to be friends for the first time. After a while, Cher turned to me and said, "Okay, it's time for bed now. We're going to sleep in the same bed. That's your side of the bed, and this is my side of the bed." In my mind, there was a bit of tension. Not that I was going to make any moves on this woman, just the idea that I'd be in bed with such a gorgeous creature. But I thought it was okay because we were friends. Then Cher got up to go to the bathroom and get ready for bed. She left the door wide open. It was dark in that bedroom, but it was light in the bathroom, so I watched her take off her clothes, all the while feigning to be on my way to sleep. There was a woman's naked body, and it was long and slender and special and just thrilling. Not that I had the wherewithal to want some physical relationship with her, but in my mind it was a stimulating and semi-innocent moment. After a while, she walked back into the room and got into bed naked. I remember thinking, this is not bad, lying next to this naked lady.
Our relationship, we were best friends. We were father and son. We were partners in crime. We were the perfect couple and very much in love with each other.
He dated a girl named Jennifer Bruce from 1985 to 1987, so he would have been about 23 years old, maybe 24, depending on what time of year, and she was 17. That's not the worst thing, considering.
No sooner did we start hanging out than we became boyfriend and girlfriend. Now I had this new person in my life who started taking up a lot of my time and energy, but she counterbalanced that by being an overall muse and a great giver. Jennifer was only 17, but she was coming off a relationship with a well-known Hollywood punk rocker. I was a fan of his, so I was a little bit jealous to hear the stories, but I also gave her extra credit for having been this guy's girlfriend. She was a hard punk rock flower who didn't take shit from anyone and was very certain about herself and very accomplished for a young person. She was going to the Fashion Institute in Los Angeles when we met. She even had her own car, a yellow hatchback MG. Like me, Jennifer was a very sexual being, although she had very little sexual experience. I'd been going strong for a while and was very sexually attracted to her.
From 1987 to 1989, he dated an actress named Ione Skye, and she was 15 turning 16, and he would have been about 25 or 26.
While I was away, Flea had a part in a science fiction movie called Stranded, and he met a beautiful young actress named Ione Skye, who he was certain was my type. We made plans for an introduction when I came home. From the moment I laid eyes on Ione, I knew that goddess was going to be my girlfriend. It was a few days before her 16th birthday, and she looked like she'd come out of a fairy tale book. Whereas Jennifer was this exquisitely manicured, modern, self-created sculpture of a punk rock superstar, Ione was more of an all-natural, soft, soulful forest nymph. She had long, flowing, curly brunette hair, a beautiful, large, flirtatious rack, and an overbite. I was always a sucker for an overbite. Ione dressed like a hippie child and had an ethereal sixth sense about her, an extra gift. She was also way too sexually curious about everything. It was an energy that she didn't verbalize, but it worked for me at that age. She was probably the most beautiful, smart, sexy, caring, and nurturing young girl in all of Hollywood, and our attraction was mutual, thank God. A few days after we met, she was introducing me at her birthday party as her boyfriend. It was mind-blowing how quickly I fell completely and deeply in love.
Backpedaling a little bit, on tour in around 1985, where he would have been around 23. Well, you'll just have to hear this one.
By the time we got to New Orleans, the tour was winding down, but the excitement level was ramped up. We were playing at one of the old World's Fair buildings, and we had luxurious backstage accommodations, including showers and couches and wall-to-wall carpeting. We had finished the set when a lovely young woman wandered into our dressing room. She had bleached blonde hair and fire-engine red lips and giant eyelashes that made her look like a reincarnated southern version of Marilyn Monroe. As I was prone to do at the time, I made my move before anyone else could even talk to her. I grabbed her hand and pulled her into the bathroom and asked her if she could keep me company while I took a shower. Once I got into the shower, she went into an impeccable rendition of Marilyn singing Happy Birthday to JFK. I got out of that shower ready to go. She immediately threw off her clothes and we made love on the floor. I had known the girl for 5 minutes, but I was certain of my affection for her. We spent the night together, and I found out more about her, including the fact that she went to Catholic school. She would be the inspiration for a later song, Catholic Schoolgirls Rule. The next day we drove to Baton Rouge, and of course she came with us. After we got off stage, she came up to me and said, "I have something to tell you. My father's the chief of police, and the entire state of Louisiana is looking for me because I've gone missing. Oh, and besides that, I'm only 14. I wasn't incredibly scared, because in my somewhat deluded mind, I knew that if she told the chief of police she was in love with me, he wasn't going to have me taken out to a field and shot. But I did want to get her the hell back home right away. So we had sex one more time, and she gave me an interesting compliment that I never forgot. She said, "When you make love to me, it's like you're a professional." I told her she should give herself a little time, and she'd realize that it was because she didn't have much to compare it to. And I put her on a bus and sent her back to New Orleans.
From 1993 to 1996, he dated a girl named Jamie, who was 17. He would have been 31.
I started to lose some of my interest in Jamie, thinking she was too young and too wrapped up in the nonsense of her micro-community. But something in me wasn't going to give up all the way, and at a certain point, I could see that she needed to go home and be in bed. So I put her in a cab, and she asked me to go home with her. So I went, and we slept together that night, but nothing happened because she was too full of booze to start our romance off. The next night, we had an out-of-control, over-the-top sexual encounter. She rocked me in a way I hadn't thought possible by a person of her age, 17. There was some very adult behavior taking place, and I remember going, "Wow, what fucking porno has this girl been watching?"
Ironically, the one reading the audiobook is Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World. And if you remember, in February 2024, on Pod Meets World, he was kind of defending convicted child rapist Brian Peck.
Pedophilia just lends itself to a moral panic. That I don't love the idea that like we're playing into the sort of conspiracy theories around Hollywood, which are ridiculous and so overblown, I think. I don't like the idea that like we are, affecting the cultural memory of Boy Meets World with this. This is like a classic thing. It's, the satanic panic of the 80s. You have like the repressed memories movement, Pizzagate.
So let's see what Anthony Kiedis' dad had to say in his biography. From Lords of the Sunset Strip, an autobiography by Blackie Dammett, a.k.a. John Kiedis, Anthony Kiedis' father. Quote, reckless, audacious, and guaranteed to provoke. I think the event was a birthday party for Tatum O'Neal, because she was all over the place. She was 12, 1 year younger than Tony, but already had an Academy Award for Paper Moon. Her father, Ryan, had raised his kids much as I had, in an environment that nurtured premature little adults. Tatum came up to us and introduced herself. I was blown away by her savoir-faire. I think that's right, I looked it up. She was like a little sexy woman in an adolescent's body. Fueled with quaaludes, before I knew it, I was trying to get her phone number and persistently chased her around the room. An angry Ryan O'Neal came at me. I stumbled backwards and fell onto the extravagant table centerpiece. Lobster bisque, roast beef gravy, and hors d'oeuvres splattered fresh, pretty party dresses and seersucker suits. I don't remember whether it was security, Mr. O'Neal, or Tony who hustled me out of there. I had been going to Powerhouse for a while. It was an old-school bar on Highland, just north of Hollywood Boulevard, that had curried a new hip crowd. There were musicians, old-timers, chrome bikers, assorted actors, and upstart starlets. I was used to seeing the melting pot of tinsel there, But I did a double take when I saw 14-year-old Drew Barrymore at the bar, drinking with a Bukowski crowd. She was adorable, spoke with a potty mouth, and carried on as if she was in her 20s. I was straining to approach her, but backed off. I'd been in enough trouble. The next time I looked, she was gone. A couple nights later, she reappeared in the same spot, at the middle of the bar, entertaining the bartender. I pulled the trigger this time, and whatever I had to say, she bought. She ran with a small crowd, and I joined it for a time. Listen to what Mackenzie Phillips, the daughter of John Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas, had to say in her biography.
A night at Anthony Kiedis' father's house when I was 13 or 14, I was with some older friends who instructed me to have sex with a 45-year-old actor. He told me what to do and how to do it. I was scared. He seemed like an old man. In the morning, he insisted that I make the bed. He said, "Tuck the sheets in tight. I want to bounce a quarter off the bed." It is a memory that bears no connection to who I am today, and so it feels like it happened to somebody else. I was there. I watched it happen to me, but I didn't let myself live the experience.
And here's what Anthony Kiedis' dad said. So one day, Lori knocked on my door, along with Her Highness Sable Starr and a young Mackenzie Phillips. Mac was the daughter of Madman John Phillips, founder of the Mamas and the Papas, #1 with a bullet, and several run-ins with drugs and the law. I was flattered to have the vivacious Lori Maddox looking me up, and I just liked looking. She was the tart of tarts, the queen of hearts, but I couldn't take my eyes off Mackenzie. At the age of 12, she had debuted as a saucy pickup in American Graffiti, directed by George Lucas. As a teenager, she was about to capture American TV viewers as one of the leads in Norman Lear's new hit show, One Day at a Time. She and Valerie Bertinelli would be sisters. Mackenzie was about to start cashing $50,000 a week checks. Eventually, I discovered she had her father's predilections and addictions, but she was talented and a sweetheart. I bumped into her occasionally, most notably at a party that was playing early Fleetwood Mac's, quote, Rattlesnake Shake, with Peter Green on guitar. High velocity and absolutely dazzling. Mackenzie says 45-year-old actor. She was born in 1959. Anthony Kiedis' dad, John Kiedis, also known as Blackie Dammett, an actor, was born in 1939, so he would have been around 35, not 45, so she could have got that wrong. But there were only two people living there, Anthony Kiedis and his father, so who else could it have been? Anthony Kiedis was not happy that he wrote this. He does not want people to read this book, and he regrets it.
What do you want the world to know about Anthony Kiedis?
Nothing. Less is more in this case. I wrote a book once and it was a big mistake. I forgot that people were gonna read it or might read it, and then they read it. I was like, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? You don't have to know anything about me.